right, I'm back. I had to take that call. That was my dealing with work. So, I forgot where I left off. But yeah, so they went through a process, and when we were created as humans, we were created to be a slave race. That was the initial plan and the purpose. Now, that's not an act of benevolence, because from our vantage point as humans, that's not. I talked about this before on another video. Your perspective on evil and good is based upon your vantage point, or based upon your disposition. See, as our creators, those Anunnaki beings, those extraterrestrials that created us, not the source of universe, not that God, and there's no such thing as a God anyway. It's just source, the source of everything. But even that source is not wanting the things it created to worship it. Worship is a very low vibrational concept. I always talk about this with y'all. Worship is a multifaceted term, meaning that it's not about. It shouldn't be limited to the inner workings of religious dogma. When you think of worship, it's literally just attached to worship and religious piosity. How do you worship? That's not worship. But that is a form of worship. That's a definition of worship. But worship could mean taking care of yourself. When you take care of your children, you're worshiping your children. When you love your wife or you love your husband, that's a form of worship. When you take care of your body, when you're eating healthy and you're working out and you're keeping up with your hygiene, that's a form of worship. When you're taking care of your house, that's a form of worship, because anything that you're doing externally is really helping your internal. Because if your external space is clear and neat, it only gives you the inner peace. You're only reflecting the inner peace that you have inside by manifesting actions that helps your inner peace. So there's like a synergistic connection. The reason why people love to be clean, you ever heard the term cleanliness is next to godliness? That's why, because as human beings, we are gods of our own beings, of ourselves. So the reason why we continually like to clean is because it's a reflection of our sanity. You know, a lot of people who have mental illness or who are suffering mental illness, you can tell a lot of the times because they look disheveled. Their space is very, very scattered and dirty, and their areas are just stinky and filthy. That's a reflection of their mindset, and that's a person that's mentally ill. But if you're mentally well, right, and you have mental equilibrium, or i.e. mental balance, then you're going to want your external to reflect the peace you have within. And peace is seen in the physical in cleanliness. All right? So, as sentient beings, as we are, we were created by these beings to be workers, a slave race. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Is that benevolent? Is that a good thing? Or is that malevolent? Is that evil? Now, to our makers, to them, it's good because they're working out something for their purpose. To them, it's good. We're creating a race to benefit us. When people are raising chickens and there's chicken farms, they slaughter the chickens for us to eat. That's a good thing to us, but to the chickens, we're evil. See, it all depends on what vantage point you're in. What position are you in? What's your disposition? So, we've been tricked and fooled to believe that our creator or our creators, hence the term, let us make man in our image, there was a group. That right there tells you that there was a race of beings, i.e. us. Create them in our image and likeness, meaning that we have the capacity to think like they think. We have the capacity to communicate like they communicate. But also, we have to understand that when we were being created, there were two brothers that were involved in this story. You have Enki and you have Enlil. All right, these two brothers were very instrumental in how humans are today. The God of the Bible is not one God. It's multiple extraterrestrial beings that are just called God. Okay? The God that destroyed the Tower of Babel and confused people's languages is called Enlil. He's just an extraterrestrial being. Okay, he's not the creator of the universe. He's not the source. He's not the source. But then you also have the god of Eden called Satan. That name is also attributed to Enlil. So essentially, when you guys open up your Bibles and you're worshiping this God, you're simply worshiping your oppressor. It's sort of like chickens in a chicken farm that are about to get slaughtered to be shipped to different stores to be eaten by consumers, but yet these chickens are bowing down and worshiping the people that are about to kill them. That's Enlil. Enlil is the part of the race that created us. He's the one that kicked out Adamu and Tiamat, or Adam and Eve, out of the garden. The garden was not a garden where you grow trees and grow stuff. You guys have to get your mind out of the asses of religion. That's what they make you believe. Garden is analogous to a laboratory. I told you, this is a seed planet. The planet is a laboratory. The Garden of Eden was a laboratory within a laboratory. Just like we have prisons on the planet, but it's a prison planet, but we have prisons within the planet. Micro to macro, macro to micro. It goes back and forth. It swings on the pendulum. So when you understand it from that perspective, you start to see that, hold on, these beings are not like so good. They just have their own personal agenda. And we're just part of it. We don't need to worship them. Remember, they made us like them. But there's also something else that happened too. Remember the serpent story about the little evil snake that came to talk to Adam and Eve? Number one, that never made sense to me, because how the hell is a snake just talking? It's all allegory and symbolism there. Okay? Let me tell you guys something. A snake is not actually evil. A snake is not actually evil. All right? Against popular belief, it's not. A snake in ancient times was a representation of regeneration. A snake is simply a symbol of healing and a symbol of growth and a symbol of strength. It's a symbol for wisdom. You say, why? Snakes look creepy. What something looks like and what it represents are totally two different things. I don't give a damn how it looks to you, because we've been brainwashed year after year, decades after decades, centuries after centuries to believe that the snake is a representation of evil. But yet, the medical industry that you guys believe in so much, these blonde-haired, blue-eyed people with white coats telling you what to do, the same medical industry that you guys have faith in is represented by the caduceus. It's a rod with two snakes around it. All right? But there's a trick to that. The reason why there's two snakes around that caduceus, the rod of caduceus, or the caduceus, the two snakes around the rod, is because it's a representation of a snake, which is a representation of healing, because the snake is a representation of healing. But when you have two snakes around the rod, it's a representation of a snake eating its own tail. So you're not really healing yourself. You're keeping yourself in that cipher of sickness, which is what the medical industry really, really does. It just covers up symptoms, keeps you sick, never dealing with the causation. It keeps you in the medical prison where you become a drug addict from one pharmaceutical company to another pharmaceutical company to another drug company to another pharmaceutical company. So you just get passed around like a whore. You take one drug that has side effects, that opens you up to take another drug that has side effects. And meanwhile, you're just being passed around like a pharmaceutical whore, but none of your symptoms, or none of the causes of your symptoms are being dealt with. They're just the symptoms on the outside, but yet you're getting sicker because so many internal functioning organs in your body are being inhibited in order to make room to make you believe that you've been healed, when in actuality you haven't been healed. Because the source of your sickness is based upon what you've been putting inside your body and based upon your mindset. So you're going to have to change what you're putting inside your body and change your mindset. As you think, so you are. We have the power to heal ourselves. So with the serpent, the one serpent Because even back then, now the medical symbol is two snakes around the rod, but initially the medical symbol was the rod of Asclepius, which was one snake around the rod, which represented healing. You even have a story in the Bible remember when, I forgot the story in the Old Testament, when he lifted up a snake and he says, everyone who looks up at the snake will be healed. That's allegorical of the snake being a representation of healing. You can't look at a freaking snake and get healed. That's stupid. Like, you guys are... Anyway, so the snake in the garden, all right, is a representation of healing. Adamu and Tiamat were living underneath a lie, which is a disease. It's a dis-ease because you're not in balance when you are living off of a lie. You can't function normally or properly if you are basing your living and functioning off of something that's not true. So it means that everything that you're doing is based upon a lie, and your perceptions start to be inverted because now you're perceiving things that are lies as truth, and you're perceiving truth as lies. So in order to heal that dis-ease within the mental makeup of Adamu and Tiamat, the snake is a representation of healing. So the snake comes to talk to them. But guess who that snake is? That snake is Enlil's brother. Enlil's older half-brother, called Enki. This is according to the tablets. These were writings that predate the Bible by thousands of years. Okay? And yet the Bible is taking stories out of there, changing names up, changing the stories around to configure a book to make you believe in this one God. That's deception. That right there makes the book totally invalid from being a book of righteousness because it has deception in it. How can a book be righteous when it's using deception to make followers follow it? That right there is it's a conflict. It's contradictory, and it's a conflict of interest, because I'm interested in religion, in righteousness and things that are done right and things that are true. But yet you're giving me something that's deemed to be true, but using deceptive practices to make me believe that it's true. So there's a clash there. So the snake comes to them to reveal truth to them. Enki is the snake. Enki is the older half brother of Enlil. Enlil's like, okay, so when this Bible is made, Enlil wants you guys to believe that he is the good God. And he only kicked Adam and Eve out because they were disobedient. But yet he comes in the garden asking the question, where are y'all? If you are an all-knowing being and you can see everything at once, why the hell are you asking where Adam and Eve are? Why do you have questions? Why are you asking them who told you were naked? Guys, they're beings like you and I. The only difference is they're just much billions of years, light years away smarter than we are. And they have technologies that we don't have. Okay, but I'm going to get to something, and I think I've told you guys this before. If this is your first time catching this video, I'm going to let you in on something. But I don't even know how great of a news it is because we're just not capable of tapping into it. So Enki tells them the truth. You say, what was the truth? But I thought he made them disobey God. No. The trees in the garden were representation of different laboratories within the laboratory. So think of the garden like a university, and within the university you have different lecture halls. You have different lecture halls. You have different classrooms. So the trees that he was talking about don't eat from that you could eat from were different rooms, different places that within the garden, within the laboratory that Adamu and Tiamat were free to go in. Now, Adamu and Tiamat were the creme of creme de la creme, or the top of the line. They were the best that the Anunnakis had created, because they created two beings, male and female, that can mate and be fruitful and multiply. But remember, I told you there were other beings that were being created before that, but it was too slow. Those beings existed too. But Adamu and Tiamat were like, it's almost like a scientist who gets into a lab, or an engineer that creates something, And while they were creating something, they had many, many replicas of the blueprint. But when they actually finish up and create the masterpiece, they put that on a pedestal. They're like, okay, that right there is my masterpiece. But the rest of the things that I created, I'll keep those too. Adam and Eve were the masterpiece. We are the masterpiece. Humanity is the masterpiece. There's other creatures that were created. They weren't all there, but they were there. When I say they weren't all there, they didn't have everything that we have. So Adamu and Tiamat were the Anunnaki's prized possession. So before Adam and Eve can even start having children, Enlil sees the direction that this whole thing is going in. He starts to have a little bit compassion for humanity. Again, it goes back to that dual concept. We all have the ability to have compassion. We all have the ability to love. We also have the ability to hate and have no compassion. So Enlil's like, no, I got to tell them who they are. So the healing concept, the snake is a symbol for what again? What did I tell you was? It was for healing. The serpent goes to Adam and Eve. Actually, he goes to Eve first because Adam was working. We've been told so many damn stories in the Bible. Oh, you're never supposed to leave your wife, and she's the weaker vessel, and Adam wasn't there to protect his wife. No. It's not about protecting his wife. They were in a laboratory, folks. They were in a. They were pretty much in a laboratory, They were just being tested, and it was a mating farm. They created a mating farm. There were other Adamus and Tiamats, but the original Adamu and Tiamat, this is their story. There were others that were out there mating, just having, they had time periods where they could have sex. They had time periods where they had this fine tuned to a science of when they wanted these beings to mate and produce. But let's stay on the topic of Adamu and Tiamat, or aka Adam and Eve. So before Adam and Eve have their first child, Enlil's like, I gotta go talk to them. I gotta let them know. So that the symbol for healing comes to Eve while Adam was away. Now, Adam being away, there's no significance of that. It wasn't like he was away just, people have said he wasn't responsible. He wasn't being responsible. He left his wife unattended to. Dude, get the hell out of here. These people were working. They had things to do. Just like I have to go to work and my wife is at home. Does that make me a bad husband? I have to leave her. I can't be attached to the hip by her. So that this idea that Adam was not protecting his wife, that's a bunch of BS. That's just a bunch of the religious nonsense that the church teaches you guys to make you guys believe that this snake is evil. In this story that I'm telling you right now, it's factual. The snake is the good guy in this story. And the God you guys serve is the bad guy. But you guys have been made to believe that the bad guy is the good guy. So you guys get on your knees to the bad guy, thinking that he's the good guy. And the one you guys are afraid of, that's the evil one, he's the good guy. He's the one that actually was looking out for us. He had compassion. That's what the tablet said. He had compassion in his heart for humanity. So he enlightened Eve and Adam. Because he's the snake. Remember, he enlightened them because they were operating off of a false narrative. They were living off of a lie, which is a mental disease. So he's the healing to their mental mind state. The eating of the fruit is a symbol as well, because when you eat something, it does something to your genetics and does something to your DNA. When you eat something, it replenishes you. When you eat something, it sustains you. When you eat something, it infuses vital minerals and vital nutrients to your cells. It makes you become who you really are. So when they talk about eating the fruit off of the tree, the fruit that was provided was knowledge. Eve ate it because she believed it. Go look in your Bibles, folks, and tell me where you see an apple or a grape. Tell me where you see. There's no mentioning of the fruit that they ate. It's allegory. So you guys think these were some two beings walking around half naked, non-intelligent beings, have a bunch of trees, literal trees in the garden, and then they went to go eat off of a tree they weren't supposed to eat off of. No. Each tree was some type of was an area. There was a forbidden areas within the garden that Enlil commanded them not to go. Okay? Not only did they go to that area, because obviously it seems like Eve was the one in that area, and it seems like Adam was doing what he was supposed to do. So this idea that Adam left his wife unattended, maybe Adam was doing what he was supposed to do. Maybe Eve was in the wrong place, which allowed Enlil to get to her because she was in an area that she wasn't supposed to be in. See, this Enlil, he's not a god of control. He uses fear to control. That's why the fear of hell is used a lot. The fear of getting your finances cursed and getting your family cursed is used, especially in the black churches, to get people to bow down to this evil God that you guys think is God. You guys think his son is Jesus. And there's a whole nother lecture I'm going to give on Jesus. It's not even who you guys think he is. It didn't even freaking exist. You guys are... Anyway, man. So, Enlil comes and tells them the truth, saying we're cosmic kin. We are related. We created y'all, but we're not God. We're not gods to be worshipped. Do you know what that did to Eve? She's like, what? She ate that? It resonated with her DNA. See, if something happens to you as a being, if you're not too deep into the hypnosis or the indoctrination or the brainwashing that the matrix system has put over you, there's something that happens when you hear truth. It's like a magnet. There's an attraction there. We're bound up to respond to truths, and the more truths you know, the better of a discerner of truths and falsities you become. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll never be deceived, because deception can come in many different forms, and most of the time deception comes to you when you least expect it, in a way that you least expect it. Okay, that's what makes it deceiving. He told Eve who she was. We created y'all. He also told Eve that while we made y'all, we're cosmic kin. It means that we are related cosmically, not planetarily, because our apparatuses, our breathing apparatuses, the way our body functions, our organs, the atmospheric levels are conducive to life on this planet for us, but not for them. Because these extraterrestrial beings, they age faster here. They age slower at on their planet. They need certain tools to breathe on this planet. We don't need tools to breathe on this planet. We breathe normally. But we do need tools if we go inside the water, if we're like deep sea diving or snorkeling. We're going to need oxygen masks because we can't breathe in water. Same thing for these Anunnaki beings. They can't breathe freely without having some type of tool to help them breathe here. But cosmically, we're related. So that lets me know something right there, that what planet you're from doesn't mean anything. We're all cosmically engineered, meaning that human beings are extraterrestrial at core. We're not indigenous to the planet Earth because our creators made us in their image, but our creators are not here physically in this realm, in this third dimensional realm. They're on another planet. But our foundation, our core essence comes from them. We have their DNA in us, but we're able to function here, and we probably will be able to function there as well because we have some of their DNA in us. That's what Enlil does not want you to know. That's what Enki told Eve. She ate it. When her husband came, she passed the information to her husband. She didn't pass a freaking apple to her husband. She didn't pass a grapefruit or some kind of fruit off of a tree and say, you eat too. Then when they bit into it, they were cursed. Oh, you're cursed because you didn't listen to God. That is so simple-minded, man. I can't believe as an adult I was to believe that. But I didn't even, it's not that I believe that, I just didn't have any other, I didn't have any other source to go to counter that argument. That's all I had. I didn't have options. Because if you give a human being options, they can pick the best one that makes sense to them. And more often than not, as a human being, if you have any degree of intelligence, you're going to be able to pick out something that makes more sense to you. And you're going to be more often than not, you're going to be accurate than you are you're going to be wrong. You're going to be right. You're going to be right. So, he gives her the fruit of knowledge, of enlightenment, gives her the knowledge of good and evil. You say, but what is the knowledge of good and evil? What do you mean? What did I just tell you guys? When you come upon something, or you come upon knowledge, it evolves, it expands your mind to the sense that you're not able to know more. And in knowing more, you're now able to know good from evil. Telling Eve the truth allowed Eve to see who's for them and who's against them. That right there is knowing the difference between good and evil. She deemed Enlil to be, whoa, he's keeping something from us. She deemed Enki as, wow, he's telling us something, he's helping us. See, initially, Adamo and Tiamat, they were under this impression that these extraterrestrial beings were their gods, because they were their creators, right? And they're all here for our benefit, and we're supposed to do things for them and worship them. Do our job and worship. Yet this snake comes to heal our minds, to repair it, to put it back in equilibrium, put it back in balance. Because when something is in balance, it can actually make better choices. The scales are not tipped either way. See, when you're deceived, you're overwhelmed by one thing, and you can only think from that lens. So your perception is skewed because you're only seeing things from that vantage point. But when you are balanced, you can see things for what they are, both ways. The panorama of the whole narrative is put right in front of you. Now you can pick and choose what's right and wrong. But when you are not balanced, you don't see things clearly. You see things in a skewed fashion. So the knowledge of good and evil wasn't that, oh, I'm telling you what's good and what's bad. They knew that already. These weren't, I would argue and say Adamu and Tiamat were far more intelligent than we are. They were the creme de la creme. Remember, they were the prized possession of the Anunnaki beings that they created. They just looked at the Anunnaki beings as, these are our gods, they created us, so let's worship them. Enki's like, nah, we created y'all, but we're not God. We're cosmically related. We're cosmic kin. Cosmically, we are related. Do you know what that did to Eve? She's like, oh, so I'm like a god like y'all? So anyone that poses to be a god, you're going to inherently know good from evil. But the thing is, Adam and Eve, they just viewed these Anunnaki beings as all good. But now they're able to differentiate what's good and evil. So she took the information and she gave it, Eve, Tiamat, she gave the information to her husband. It wasn't a freaking apple or a fruit. She gave the information to him and he believed it as well. And guess what? Enki also told Adamu and Tiamat, especially Tiamat. He told her, he said, look, and I'm paraphrasing here, we made y'all like us, but we also put a little bit of extra stuff in y'all. One day, you guys have the capacity to be better than us. throughout, that makes me very emotional, because out of everything that I have ever read, or all the information that I've received, and it hasn't been much, because I know there's more out there. I'm not saying that I don't know everything. I don't even know the 10th of what I need to know. I have more ignorance in me than I have knowledge. I can tell you that much. Through the religious portal of Christianity or any religion, we're told that there's this sky being or this deity that's above all. There is. That's called source. But what has happened and what these imposters have done, they've taken the attributes of the source or the creator of all, and they've put that upon themselves to manipulate those of lesser intellect. Let me rephrase this again. It means this: we're not smart enough to know that we're being fooled, because we're operating off of surface things. We don't look beneath the surface. See, initially Eve and Adamu, that's all they knew. They just said, okay, we're created. These are our creators. That's it. They didn't know that there was a creator of all. And that creator of all did not create humans. These Anunnaki beings created us. So in the sense, in the mind of Eve and Adamu, or Tiamat and Adamu, them being simpletons, they limited their capacity to think outside the box, because they were in the box, in the garden, and it's almost like lab rats, or sort of like an animal being born, and the first person they see is that human. They may end up thinking that human is their mom or dad. Adam and Tiamat, they were like, well, maybe these are our spiritual, maybe these are our gods. I mean, that's all we know. All they can see and witness and absorb was what they had in their ecosystem, that garden, that laboratory, and the things that they were provided to see by their controllers. I want you to follow me here. Remember, I started off by talking about how we are oppressed and we don't know it. Adamu and Tiamat were oppressed, but did not know it. They thought they were free. They thought they were worshiping their creator, which in a sense they were, because the Anunnaki beings did create them. But they're not worshiping the creator of all, because the creator of all doesn't require you to worship. Any being that requires you to worship them is a being that's oppressing you. Enki told us this, that we're cosmic kin. The Anunnaki don't worship anybody. If we're cosmically related to the Anunnaki beings and they don't worship, why the hell are we worshiping anything? Also, we have in our DNA, the way we were built. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geneticist. I don't know the terminology to use to make it more clear to you. But all I can say is that the way we were made is not the same way the Anunnaki beings were made. Because the Anunnaki beings, they played around with our cells. They did so much in creating Adamu and Tiamat. And when they finally created them, they tinkered with our DNA so much so that they added extra stuff in there that they don't have. I'll give you an example, and I think I've said this before in a video. It's sort of like how humanity today is playing around with AI, playing around with robots, and having robots talking like humans, having robots move like humans, having robots having intelligence like humans, if not like humans, surpassing humans. So imagine us being able to create a robotic humanoid, but with the ability to be much smarter than us. That's what the Anunnaki did. They experimented with us. They played around with us so much so that they added extra stuff in us that's going to make us, that makes us, that puts us in a position to rival them. You say, what is it? I don't know. I just know that whatever they're capable of doing, we can do much more. We are capable of doing much more. And think about it. Because of artificial intelligence, you can speak into your phone and ask any question. It can just give you an answer immediately. Imagine having somebody that's that smart in human form, not a device you're talking to. I'm talking about a humanoid robot that talks. They have them now. They have robotic heads and robots that move. They may have a little bit of robotic movement, and I'm acting like it right now, but they don't talk like robots. Like, what is your name? My name is. No, they speak like you and I, but very, very proper. Like, what is your name? My name is that. My name is Literary Pharaoh. I am here to give you. Like, they speak in that type of cadence, and as the technology advances, it'll get better and better. So imagine how humans are able to create. Where do you think we get that creative itch from? We get it from our creators. They created, we create. And what we create will one day have the ability to create. It's a spiraling construct where it causes a ripple effect in the cosmos. So when Enki told Eve, hey man, you guys aren't slaves. We're cosmic kin. Enlil didn't like that. And once they became knowledgeable of who they were, hell yeah, they changed their clothing. They wrapped themselves up. Because remember, you may not know this, in that garden, Adamo and Tiamat, they walked around butt-ass naked. That's all they knew. I mean, they didn't have the feelings to cover up. They didn't feel the need to. The only people who could wear clothing were the Anunnaki gods. So the symbolism of clothing was them coming to the realization that we're gods like y'all. We need clothes too. You see how oppression works? If you don't tell people who they are and who they're capable of, they could only function in the mud like pigs, walking around butt-ass naked like animals. They're like, no. What did Enlil, what did the God of your Bible tell them? He says, who told you were naked? Nakedness. The Christian people like to say, nakedness, it means that they were innocent. In a sense, yes. But also means they were ignorant. Because innocence and ignorance are tied together. Because when you're innocent, there's a degree of ignorance that allows you to be innocent. Because the more you know, the more that dualistic construct begins to swell and foment in the mind. Meaning that the more you know, now you have the capacity to be more of a deceitful person. And now you have more of a capacity to tell more truths because you know more. So you can either use your knowing to help and benefit mankind, or you can use your knowing to manipulate mankind. You can go either way. The law of dualistic constructs. It's the law of the universe. It has nothing to do with the Bible. It's just any sentient being. Enlil had it. Enki had it. It doesn't make Enlil evil. In his head, he's not evil. He's just doing what he thinks is best for him and his people. Enlil is not evil or good. He's just doing what's best for him. But to us, from our vantage point, Enlil is evil. See, evil is about perspective. There's no such thing as absolute evil or absolute good. It just depends on who's doing the action, and that whoever's doing the action, who is it impacting and how is it impacting those that it's impacting. That's how you have to look at it. What Enlil did to Adamu and Tiamat, you should read the Apocrypha of Adamu. It's left out of the Bible. It's very grim of what that man went through. Enlil would be evil for what he put Adamu and Tiamat in. He pushed them out of the laboratory, made them go out and just fend for themselves. That's a good God? But the serpent is bad because he gave them enlightenment? When has giving knowledge to people ever been bad? So are you a bad parent for giving your kids knowledge? Well, you're not supposed to give them too much knowledge because they can... What do you mean? You give your children knowledge that they can handle at their appropriate age, but as they get older, you start to, modify the verbiage to fit their age group. But you're always giving knowledge to your children. Why would it be evil for Enki to give enlightenment and give knowledge to Adamu and Tiamat, Adam and Eve? Why is that deemed to be evil? when we as parents do it to our own children, or our parents did it to us. Keep people in the dark, make them feel like you're a god so they can worship you, so you can oppress them, so you can continue to make them be a slave race. And all those stories about getting food and sacrificing your first best animals or your first best fruits to the gods, they were feeding the gods. They were feeding the Anunnaki beings. The Anunnaki beings were on this planet. They weren't going to go out there and work for their food. They had people doing it. Sacrifice your animal, bring it to the temple. Yeah, bring it to the temple so we can eat. And take your ass back out there and go back to work. We were built to be a slave race, people. Sorry to break it to you. I know it breaks your heart because you were told that you're the apple of God's eye and all this other crap. No, you're the apple of your own damn eye. Worship yourself. I don't know where the road leads us. I do know this in the realm of quantum physics, that energy never dies. So I know my body can die here, but I know that my soul and the energy that I have will go somewhere else. I may change form, but to cessation of life, no, energy never dies. Because if people died, if energy dies, that means that the source of all living things is slowly dying as well, and that's not happening. So that source is the power and the energy that holds all things together. So anything that's created, even if Source did not create it, because Source didn't create us. We were created by Anunnaki beings. But even though Source did not create us, we still have the essence of the Anunnaki in us. He told us. Why do you think scientists, I could pull up articles right now. I can't. I'm in my car. I don't have my computer in front of me. But scientists say it all the time. Why do all these humans have junk DNA? They call it junk DNA. We have all this extra stuff in us that scientists can't figure out what the hell they do. They're like, okay, what is this for? So they just gave it the term junk because they don't know what it is. Just like junk in your house, you throw it away, you don't have any use for it. But there's use for it, we just can't tap into it because we are being chemically oppressed on this planet. The atmosphere levels are being tampered with. That's why you see chemtrails. You see it all the time. You see them geoengineering. You see them spraying stuff on us. It's in the foods. It's all part of this depopulation tactic. And even the Tower of Babel, men back then were living to be 300, 400, 500 years old. But once Enlil saw the advancements of how human beings could come together to do whatever they wanted because they were all speaking the same core language, there was no language barrier. Today we have racial barriers, language barriers. We have all these barriers that keeps us separate. Religious barriers, political barriers. It's all divide and conquer tactics that's been used for millennia. So it all started with your God, people, the God that you guys serve. Yahweh, God, he loves us. You're an idiot. He doesn't love you. He loves himself. He's looking out for himself. And I can't really call him evil, but from my vantage point, he's evil. To him, he's just doing what he thinks is best for him. So he just destroys the Tower of Babel and confuses people's languages. How did he do that? He had technology to do so. The different races came out of there as well, because each Anunnaki being that led different regions of the world were looked differently. So what they did, they modified the humans to look like them genetically. You say, how did that happen? I wasn't there, but they have the technology to do it. Don't we have the technology today to mess around with genetics? And we are a lesser version of the Anunnaki beings that created us. So imagine what the hell they can do. It's technology, folks. So that's why you have people with different languages. It's hard to come together. If I go to a different country, I can't connect with anybody because I can't speak what they're speaking. They can't speak what I speak. So a barrier ensues, and therefore communication is marginalized at best. We can't get anything done. Or if we do get something done, it takes longer. Imagine if everybody spoke the same language. You know how quickly we'll get things done in this world? Thank you. Thank Enlil for that. Thank your God for that. But that was deemed to be good. And we've been told in Christian in the pews that God did that because man were evil. How is man evil? The only evil person I see in the Bible is the God you guys are serving. We're just trying to do what's best for us. The same way the Anunnaki beings came together to say, let's build man in our image. That's the same thing that humanity will be able to do. Not in terms of creating man in their image, but we would come together to create things to benefit us. Just like they were building humanity to benefit them, to dig gold, to fix their ship. We would do things to make our lives easier. So which brings me back to modern day. All right. This is why we are oppressed. All right. and we don't know it. Is that Garden of Eden complex? You think you're free, but you're not, because the system that we live in, ran by banks, is a it's not an earthly design. It's not an earthly blueprint. The esoteric things, the secret knowledge that these certain groups have, it's it has its inner workings with the hands of extraterrestrials. Human beings are not that intelligent. We don't even use 10% of our brains. To be on average, we only use about 3 to 5% of our brains, and we're able to do this much with only using 3 to 5% of our brain. Imagine if we use 10% of it, 15% of it, 20% of it. Remember that junk DNA I talked about earlier that geneticists can't figure out what it does and or what it's for, what it stands for. Yeah, and it's scientific. And Enki said it. He said we put some stuff in y'all that will make you guys rival us, and that's what keeps Enlil afraid at night. Like, damn, the minute these humans become who they can become, immediately they hit their potential, all hell will break loose. In a good way for us, in a bad way for him. Why do you think he destroyed the Tower of Babel and confused languages? He doesn't want humanity to reach their potential. But yet this is the God y'all serve? Let's not, don't tell me, I know what you're saying. Oh, well, that was the Old Testament. He changed, he's more loving. No. The God of the Bible is like quadruple polar. It's not even bipolar, because it's not one character. Marduk, the son of Enki, that's a whole other story. I don't want to even get into that. But their sons and their family, like, they take over the planet. They deal with the Draco reptilians. The Draco reptilians are over them. To be honest with you, Enlil is half reptilian. I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. There are different races of beings, just like you have different races of earthlings, but we all come from Earth. There are different races of Anunnaki beings that just come from a different planet. But it's a multiracial extraterrestrial race. And we are oppressed here because the systems that we are governed by were created by extraterrestrial beings who have used certain humans to be the face of their operation, which is the best way to do it. Because remember, the Anunnaki, they have to get smarter. It's not, no longer can we just govern people in a garden. People have spread all around the world. So how can we still oppress humanity? Oh, we could create a system where they won't have time to think. Rockefeller said this best. I believe it was Rockefeller. If it wasn't Rockefeller, it was one of the Rothschilds. You can look it up. You can Google this. They said that we don't want a thinking class. Specifically said this verbatim in quotes. We do not want a thinking class. We want a working class. Now, to the ignorant-minded simpleton, yeah, you gotta work, make a living, sweat of your brow. You're an idiot. The reason why they want you to work is because when you're working, you can't think. Well, you can think. You're thinking about your job. You don't have the ability to think about deeper concepts. Humanity can't come together like they did in the Tower of Babel. That's what Enlil is afraid of. Look at the Bible. He says whatever they imagine, they can do. Whatever they want to do, whatever they imagine, they can accomplish. Now, if you think that humans are inherently just evil people, then like an idiot, because you've been brainwashed in your Christian pews to believe that men are sinners, that there's nothing good about us, and if we had power, we would use it for evil. That's not necessarily true. Remember, the law of dualism is a construct that's in every being. But the reason why evil things happen is because when you oppress people, they're forced to be in flight or fight mode. So sometimes you will lean to your lesser self, or lean to your baser self, or act in low vibrational ways to get what you want. If I'm hungry and I'm starving, am I more likely, and I don't have any money, am I more likely to damn near starve to death and beg for money to go buy bread? Or am I going to be sneaky, go in the store and steal the bread so I can eat to survive? I'm going to steal the bread to survive. But I'm a thief in the eye of the store owner. But in my eyes, I'm doing what I need to do to survive. You see what I mean? So it's evil. The store owner, it's evil. But to me, it's not. I'm just doing what I need to do to survive. But the ecosystem that was created to even cause me to be hungry is the bigger dilemma. So this ecosystem that causes people to go to work, it causes people to be pulled away from their children, to throw your children in daycare. The banking system, it's an alien contrived system. You say, no, human beings were smart enough to create banks. And yes, we get it. But it didn't originate from them. Just like our technologies didn't originate from us. Do you know how much? Do you know the inner workings? The reason why technology has advanced so fast in the last 50 to 100 years is because when I say we humans, have been dealing with extraterrestrials for the longest. There are CIA documents that have been, whether initially were classified, they're now declassified due to the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA, that allows people to get these PDF documents, but people don't read shit. They don't read anything. They don't care. They just watch Netflix, go to Walmart, eat Popeye's chicken, and go home and sleep. They're dumbed down, and I think those kind of people deserve what they get. Okay, but it's a system that's contrived from aliens, because the technology that we have today, the advancements that we've made in the last 50 to 100 years, it's not because human beings just gotten smarter. It's because human beings have been making sacrifices to these extraterrestrial beings. And when I say extraterrestrial beings, I don't mean just the Anunnaki beings. There are other extraterrestrials. There are Greys. There are others. Remember, this is a seed planet. This planet has been visited by so many extraterrestrial different races. Okay? So these extraterrestrial beings, they give technology to humanity in exchange for human sacrifices. You say, what do you mean human sacrifice? Are they killing humans? No. When you hear about these abductions, when you hear about human trafficking and kids going missing, when you hear about aborted babies that are said to be aborted, but they're not really dead, and they take these babies somewhere, when they draw your blood, where do you think that blood goes? Yeah, they take it and test it in a laboratory, but what do you think they do with that blood? The pharmaceutical industry and the banking industry, they work in cahoots with the aliens, because that's the only purpose we serve. Our genetics makes us godlike, not source, but godlike, like the Anunnaki gods, lower G gods that created us. Remember, we're cosmic kin, but the same DNA stuff, the same DNA molecules that's in those Anunnaki beings are in us. As a matter of fact, we have more than them. We are capable and have the potential to rival them, to be more powerful, to be smarter, to do things that they can't do, to be more spiritual, to be more physical. Anything that they are, times it by 100. Anything that we are, artificial intelligence is better, because in terms of intelligence, they can get things faster. So whatever they did to us, whatever Enki poured into us when they were creating us, that they kept away from Enlil. They don't know this. He just thought that we created a working class. He wasn't into the genetic operation. And Enki was more involved in that. Enki and his son Thoth, or Ninkishzida. He's known by different names. Thoth the Atlantean. He was part of that process. And they were the ones that tinkered with the DNA structuring of the modern human as you know it. So yeah, all these constructs that keeps us the way we are all contrived by aliens. The governments are alien ran. That's what they call it. They call the government that we see the shadow government, because the real government you can't see. The real government has no face. We are governed by aliens still today. Just like when Eve, Tiamat, And Adamu were in that garden. They thought that the creator of the gods were these Anunnaki beings, not knowing that no, we're just related. They created us, but we're kind of like them. We're cosmic kin. We think that the governments have power. Governments don't have power. Aliens run the world. They use these governmental structures as a means to hide their faces. So when you hear the term shadow government, it means that the government that you see right now in the United States is a shadow of the real government that you can't see. What you're seeing is a shadow. Trump and Biden are nothing but ants. They're puppets. They are insignificant. They're just faces for the system. These beings don't have to work that hard to manipulate humanity, because look how easy it is. But not everyone is manipulated. There are many others like me that think critically, that think far outside the box, and they understand what the bigger matrix system entails. What you're seeing is not what it is. It's sort of like Transformers. There's more that meets the eye. You know, when the Transformers, it's like a normal car, and all of a sudden they transform into their selves. That's what this is. You have shape-shifting reptilians that dwell among us. You have hybrid humanoid species. You have over 480 underground tunnels that exist right now in the United States. And you may ask yourself, what are they doing down there in those tunnels? Experiments. The underground cities. In the ocean, in the waters, there are deep underground cities in the oceans, so deep that humans can't go down there. It's okay. I know what I'm saying is not in your Bible. And no, if something's not in the Bible, it has to be false. It has to be from the devil. That's what people have been trained to believe. If it's not in the Bible, it's of the devil. No. See, when you have this thought in your head that this evil God that you serve is a loving God, then you're going to look at other people who don't believe in that God as, how can you live as a human and not believe in God? Well, if you know who that God really is, that would be the last thing that you want to do, is serve that being. Then you start to realize there's actually nothing to serve. I don't need a God governing over me to do the right thing. I have the power within my own makeup as a sentient being operating underneath the law of duality. I have the ability to make good choices. I have the ability to make bad choices. Just like the Anunnaki beings have the ability to make the choices they wanted to make. We are the byproduct of their experiment. We are an experiment. And today, human beings are disposable to certain people who could take us, give us these extraterrestrials that could cut us open and do all sorts of experiments on us in exchange of technology. They take human organs because there's something special in our makeup, especially carbon-based beings. When I say carbon-based, I mean us, melanated beings. I mean, we all have carbon to a degree, but we have higher degree of carbon if you're melanated. The melanated content of our genetics makes us very, very special. Very, very special. But yeah, so the prison that you think that you are not in is the prison that you're in. People who are in prison on Earth didn't follow certain laws and rules that keeps the matrix system going. So you have agents. Cops are agents in that realm of law. But then in the real world, outside of the prison narrative, you also have agents, people you work with. Like my boss right now, you know, he's big on time. Make sure you clock in on this time. Make sure you don't steal time. Steal time? Every time I come to work, my time is being stolen from me. Just because I don't come on time to some job doesn't mean I'm stealing their time. You see, we have the whole concept inverted. We look at jobs as if the jobs are the creme de la creme, as if the jobs are the it factor. And our lives are predicated on the job. No. I am the job. I am everything. I am everything. So when I have to leave what I want to do to go work, they're taking my time. People used to say the world doesn't revolve around you. Yes, it does. The world does revolve around us, humans, as humanity. We have to make sure we put ourselves at the center of everything. We have to make ourselves the most essential element of everything. That's true worship. True worship is knowing who you are, and knowing who you are, and thinking that you know who you are because you're worshiping some external being that doesn't even hear you, doesn't even listen to you, doesn't give a shit about you, didn't even want you to know who the hell you are. That's the God you. Oh, okay. The monetary system is a system that's contrary to the natural system that we have on the planet. You say, what do you mean by that? Well, the monetary system is ran off of money, printing money, causing oppression, causing people to be in debt, putting us in a position to be slaves as indentured servants. That's what a slave is, folks. We're all slaves. I'm not trying to convince you. You don't have to believe me. I don't care how much money you make. You could be making good money at your job. That doesn't take away the truth that you're still a slave. You're just a slave that makes a higher income than somebody else. We're supposed to be living off of the land. You say, what do you mean by live off the land? What I mean is that we should have a resource-based economy. But if we had a resource-based economy, it would put everybody on an equal playing field. There would be no elites. There's no reason why there are people who can have multiple million-dollar homes, and you have people who are poor. There's a disproportion there. There should be no poor person in the world. There should be no wars. Wars are also a manufactured element of aliens, because as long as they keep us divided, they keep us fighting, it also helps them with the depopulation agenda, because they can't have too many humans. At first it was okay, be fruitful and multiply, but now you guys are getting too much. We don't want you guys to get too smart, so we confuse the languages, and we make you guys remain divided on so many principles: religious principles, political principles, all right, racial principles, racial lines, geographical principles, geographical fighting over whose land is whose land, Israel and Palestine. I mean, that's just happening everywhere. People fighting over this, which God is real, which God is not. You guys are of the devil, you guys are of this, you guys believe in that, Seventh-day Adventists, you guys believe it. So we're all scatterbrained and we're all divided, number one. So we're all fucked in that regard, number one. So we can never come together. So that plan is working quite well. But to deepen the chaos is let's make them go to war as well, because we can't have them living too long, or we can't have people being alive. Because the more people there are on the planet, the harder it is to control all of them. So we have to depopulate people by making sure they don't live to 120 years. Because remember, Enlil said, my spirit, he also means that his kind of genetics, his energy will not be in man. That man should only live to be 120. No longer than 120. So you can only live up to 120 if you live in the most pristine condition. But people don't even make it to 100, because most of us eat unhealthy foods. We don't work out. I could go on and on. Stress, drugs, you name it. Okay. So number one, you have the thing that they like to poke in people's arms. They call it an agent of healing. That messes with your DNA. That also shortens lifespans. When children are born, they're injected with that thing. They say it's needed. If the baby doesn't have it, the baby will get sick. So they use fear as a basis of applying their deceptive practices and putting you in a state of fear. So if they could put you in a state of fear and keep you there, then you're always going to operate the way they want you to operate. But Eve was no longer afraid, nor was Adam. They clothed themselves, not out of fear. It was out of knowledge of knowing who they are. They understood themselves to be gods. So they wanted to dress up like everybody else. They wanted to have clothes on. Now, they didn't have the same thing that the Anunnaki beings had on, but they wanted to put on something to show who they are. We're not just creatures. We are cosmically related to these beings that created us. So if Enlil ever made a mistake, that's the mistake they made. They created us to be their workers, but here we are, thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. We still don't know who we are, because the plan is working great. Some people do, but the majority of humanity, they don't. They're still relying on Trump and Biden to save their asses. They're still looking outside themselves, not knowing that the power is within themselves. So we are still oppressed people. We're mentally oppressed because we don't know the truth. We're physically oppressed because we operate off of a false principle, off of a false base, off of a false foundation. We're also oppressed because we look at work as a way of living and not understanding that the way you live is your source of living. Once you've given your life off to the corporation, you're just a dead man walking. It's just a matter of time. That's including me. I'm not excluding myself from this. I have to go to work. I cannot afford not to go to work, because if I don't, my house will be taken. But I don't care so much about me. It's the children that I have. So in a way, it's a win-win for our oppressors. You know, the idea in religion is to be married and have children. Don't have children out of wedlock. Have them the right way. But do you know once you have those children, you become more of a slave to the system? You say, how? Well, now you have someone else to take care of that's incapable of taking care of themselves. Now you're forced to work. Now you have more of an incentive to be a slave because you have something that's valuable at home, your children. But imagine, like, if I was by myself and I wasn't married with kids, I wouldn't give a I wouldn't care. I think I would just strictly be a YouTuber. I would find a way to get, I don't know what I would do, but it wouldn't be, I wouldn't take my job that seriously. Put it that way. It wouldn't mean much to me. But yeah, that's my spiel. That's my rant. We are living in a prison planet. On a prison planet, it's a seed planet. Do research on the underground tunnels if you don't believe me. Do research about how human beings are trafficking human organs of undeveloped fetuses or dead fetuses, peddling it to extraterrestrials in exchange for technologies. Yeah, we are oppressed, folks. And until we wake up and see the truth, we're never going to end oppression. To me, the biggest form of oppression is religion, because that was the first form of it. It was to make Adamo and Tiamat, to view them as gods. You know, it comes out of everybody's mouth. God, God. I don't say God. I may say it out of habit of always used to saying it, but I'm making a very conscious effort to never say those things, because if I do say God, I'm talking about myself. I am my own God. Just like the Anunnaki beings, they didn't have a hand in their own creation. Some other entity higher than them created them. And the entities that created them had another entity higher than them that created them. There's so many interdimensional beings that exist and extraterrestrial beings that exist. It's not even funny. It's so much. We're just operating at the lowest. There are 15 dimensions. We are on the third dimension. And below the third dimension is pretty much hell. We are in the hell dimension, which is why things are so hard. This is why we're so easily manipulated and deceived, and there's war. We actually have to kill things and eat things and take things that are dead in order to replenish ourselves, because we live in a continuum of a death cycle and life cycle, death and life cycle. That's a low form of living, when you have to eat dead things to be sustained. You have higher forms of living where beings are just consuming planets or consuming universes or consuming energy as a source of sustenance. Our source of sustenance is to eat dead things. That's low level, folks. That's low level. All right, take care, guys. I know it was a long rant. I'm sure that no one's going to hardly listen to this video, because so many people are used to listening to short TikTok videos, and the minds of people are being dumbed down even more by design, because we no longer have the mental endurance or the brain capacity to stand or listen to something that's longer than maybe 12 or 15 minutes. And if it's longer than that, then people tune out. But I'm not doing this for clicks or views. I'm just doing this for anyone who wants to know more about this reality that we live in. And there are many, many YouTubers that can give you guys a better description or give you a better outlook of how things are. I just did my best from my vantage point to let you guys know that what you've been told in your church and what you've been told about this world has been a total lie. We're totally being deceived. All right, take care. Till next time. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think.